Hello, welcome to Bars and Bells. My name is Lauren.
And I'm Ian.
And this is week 4 of our weekend workout, where you can do this any day of the week. It's not limited to the weekend, but it involves just our body weight, a little bit of space. We'll do a nice warm-up, we'll warm up our core, we'll crawl around, and we'll ultimately work towards that handstand. Let's get started.
Started with the basics, including some wrist warm-ups and foot warm-ups first. With those feet in parallel, get to that ball of the foot, that lunge style foot, and ultimately towards the toe point. Feel the difference and see the difference between straight lines through the big toe and then crunched over. Crunched over is a nice stretch, but strengthen those arches by pointing the toes. Then get to the ball of the foot and push the hip through to straighten the knee. Then the same thing on the other side and pull that heel off the floor, getting to those demi points, and then get to the toe tip. For a difference, maybe just again, crunch over those toes, feel a good stretch, but strengthen that arch by pushing energy out of that big toe, back to the balls of feet, and back to hips through. Repeat that one more time with a little bit of a balanced weight transfer in between. So it's a ball of a foot towards our toe point. Then go back to the ball of the foot, use your flat foot butt cheek to find a rise, and then land on a straight leg on the other side. And then articulate through the foot the same, towards that toe point. Back to the ball of the foot. Same thing one more time on a weight transfer up and then down. And this time as we'll get into some of our single leg squats today, bend that single leg on the knee. Then press through, one more quick switch and down and blend in that knee bend, softening the ankle and the knee and press through and finish one more time nice and tall at the top, holding onto the balance with butt cheeks squeezed, knees straight, ribs over those hips. I'm going to try to look at Lauren to see if she's doing the same thing. And of course, and then the other side as well. Those little head swivels definitely make it a little more challenging. Warm up those balances in all ways and on the hands. But now we'll go knees over toes as we sit low to the ground. Then the heels can gently peel up to help us get lower. The knees, the hips, the usual suspects and cues on that. And now we go fingertips, callus lines, full hands to the floor. At the head and neck, look forward in extension, and then look down between the hands in flexion. Repeat again, extension, and then flexion. And now at the hands, those first knuckle push-ups, so the fingers and callus lines stay heavy as the elbows stay straight, and we press into the floor. And modifying into that modified position if we needed a little bit more challenge, but build that strength, build the endurance of those hands for the crawls at first, and then ultimately the handstand, and push away. Then we'll do a 180 at those hands, have the fingertips face to the back. This time, if you push your fingers to your knees, you'll drift forward. And if you push weight into the heels of the hands, you'll go back. Remember that skill if you're upside down and you're going one way, push the other to go the opposite way. So if your hands are heavy on the heels of them, push to the fingers. And for one more time, push into those fingers to drift forward. Now bend those knees and gently peel those, these knees, I guess, the elbows, and then sit back onto your butt cheeks here. Very quickly before we go back to the hands, have your hands at the sides and shoulder blades. In our kettlebell practice, this shrug is very infrequently practiced, but in our handstands, very useful. Low effort, relax. So as you're upside down in those hollow positions, don't be afraid to elevate or shrug the shoulders for strength, but then also let them come back down and shake for a little relaxation. One more time on those hands for me, and it's off to Lauren, where this time we'll make our fists. Aim to have weight on the peace sign digits being index and middle finger, packing the shoulders, and this time flexing over the wrist, gently back a hand to floor. But no matter how flexible you get, are you strong to return? So push those knuckles into the floor to return to stack. Repeat on the other side as we flex over. Elbows are still staying nice and straight, and press down into the floor to return to the stacked position. One more time each, sets of 2s and 3s as we warm this up. But again, if you're working on those skills and want to improve your handstand, perhaps a set of 8 or 10 of these every now and then could go a long way. I'm going to press the floor away and give it back to Lauren here to figure out what's next.
Excellent. Let's get right into warming up that core. We're going to do not just 2, but we're going to start with 2 core warm-ups here, lying down on our back. So right now we're lying down on our back, knees are bent, feet are flat on the floor, palms up or face up at our side. For both of these exercises, we'll start and keep that little mouse in the house. So little Stuart lives behind that belly button, and let's not squish him throughout this exercise. We'll take our ribs and try to connect them to our hips by lifting our shoulders and our head off the floor. As we're here, we're breathing. We're trying not to do all this work with our neck, but to hold ourselves up with that core. If allowed, let's lift the knees. If not, stay here or extend one leg away. Return it to center, extend the leg away, and either continue with single legs or extend both legs away. Those legs are reaching out long and they're tight, tight, tight together. We could take our arms towards the handstand position and breathe, but point the toes. Legs are tight, knees are straight. We still have that hollow shape with that Stuart Little living behind our back. We're breathing and bracing. I could roll you over like a log for 3, 2, pull everything back to center and take a second off. Ooh. Now we're going to continue on to another core exercise, staying lined here. This part's the nice part. The next part, we'll have our palms down this time. You get to use your arms, but I want you to limit the use. Try not to get tricep cramps as you do this. We'll have nice straight legs. We'll point our legs and we'll lift them up. And as we lift those legs, you can feel that that little mouse is still living in the house. Once we get to that 90 degrees or perpendicular to the floor, that's when we start to curl up. And we pull the legs in the socket. And we're trying to get the knees to a little bit of the head. First one here in the morning. One vertebrae at a time, keeping the knees nice and straight. Soft landing. Let's point those legs away from us. Let's try it 2 more times. Squeeze the cheeks, nice straight legs as they lift up. Think pulling in to lift the legs towards overhead. There we go. Now, we're not trying to return back to the ceiling, but instead, we're trying to fold in half as much as possible. So get those knees as close to your body on the way down as you can. Soft arms. Whew. And maybe if I this third one, we're going to feel rocking. So one last time as we lift those legs up. Reach them towards overhead. You can always do this with the bent knees if needed. Breathing, reaching, point the toes, keep the legs straight. Come down nice and slow with control. Oh, well, that was an ab warm-up, I'd say.
That was, and a hamstring stretch, holy cow. But working from the legs, let's just continue working into those hips, namely into our knees over toes action. So back into this tall kneel position here, and then ultimately into our lunge. Tucking under that back hip, squeeze your back butt cheek, and pull ourselves forward, incorporating that knee over the toe action. Then just stay there. Squeeze your back butt cheek again. Could you pull yourself further forward and then push forward to return to that tall middle position? Open that back up to the side and repeat the same thing. Pull together to drift over to the side. Cramp up that lateral butt cheek. Stay somewhat relaxed and then pull yourself 1 more degree further and push into that bent leg to return to the middle. Heel toe to center, bring that underneath, and to the other side, same thing. From this position, it's that cramp of the back butt cheek. You might feel that hip flexor quad open up as a little bit of a stretch load, and then pull ourselves towards forward. As you can see on Lauren's side profile, shoulders, hips, and the knee are moving all together. Then push forward to go back. Then open that to the side for 1 more, always being aware of these level hips versus the hike, and then pulling the heel together, drifting over, staying for a second, drifting a little further, even if that's in your imagination, and then push to the side to go back to tall, bring that to the center and under. 1 more thing from down low to the shoulders. Let's challenge that overhead by having the palms forward and making a light fist. Do the knuckle bend, the wrist bend where the knuckles go forward, followed by our bicep curl. Elevate the shoulders, and for right now, just pull those shoulders back down, and then go right up towards your overhead shape. Making sure those arms get in line with those ears and the rib cage can stay down. Then shrug or elevate and pull the armpits down and pull the sky back down into that rack position. And repeat 1 more time, armpits low, arms towards overhead, but then elevate and shrug, Useful places for those handstands today, but pull down and groove that pull, push action to the rack, and then extend on the elbows, open the hands, and shake it out.
Wow, let's continue on by warming up those hamstrings in our little walk exercise we've been doing lately. So we'll come up to that A-frame shape where we'll tuck our toes and lift our hips up. And we can have those bent knees right now because we're thinking about pulling the femurs in, driving the hips towards the ceiling here, and breathing. So it's not necessarily about getting those heels down, but about lengthening the hamstrings from the hips. Now from here, we're going to take a step forward into our plank position, peeling the palms away as we do so. In our plank, we'll tighten up our core, squeeze our cheeks, pull the floor together, imagining you could lift your feet up and lift into that handstand you're so tight, and then hips start to lift, and we'll walk those feet towards those hands, breathing, trying to get them as close as possible, but keep the hands flat. Peel the hands off the floor, walking forward out into our plank again. In that plank position, this time let's create that X pattern tension. So pulling right hand to left hip and left hand to right hip without moving for 3, 2, hips lift, feet walk to hands. Take your time, keep them flat, reach the label of the back of your pants up to the sky. And one last time, walking forward. First pulling in parallel for 3, 2, then pulling an X pattern for 3, 2, one more time parallel, one more time X, lift the hips, walk the feet forward, breathe, get tight, 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 pull in, slowly tuck your chin and roll yourself up. It's kind of like a reverse plow here this time. We're stacking our vertebrae on top of our hips. Whoa.
Right on. We'll take a break off those hands and get to those legs in regarding to that squat. Take a single leg and pull it up to the ankle and keep that foot off the floor and underneath the hips. From this position, let's incorporate that knee over toe squat and hang out. And to stand up, it's that hip extension or pushing the hip forward. Repeat twice more, pulling ourselves down, hanging out in that tension load, making sure the tension is on the quad or the muscles and not specifically the knee. And repeat that one more time, pulling down and pressing through. To land, toe ball on the other foot, and then hip extension through. Other side, same thing. Foot's off the floor, and that hip flexion or knee up helps keep us nice and level as we get low, and then push the hip through to tall. 2 more repetitions, slow and steady, helps fill in some of those gaps, educating that pathway with some tension, and push through. So wear that tension on the quad and on the calf and in those hips and core muscles, avoiding tension on the knee or too much tension on the face.
All right, another crawl we've been working on these past couple weeks is our bear crawl, transitioning through like the slide picture today. So let's make our way to the floor, knees towards over toes, peel the heels up, and soft landing. We'll start first in that bear hover, which is our hands underneath our shoulders, our knees underneath our hips, and our toes lightly tucked. From here, we'll hover the knees just off the floor. We're going to lift opposite hand and foot off the floor and pivot through. We'll come to the tall sit the first time. So in this tall sit, we have a nice long leg, our shoulder is packed, we're lifted. Then we're going to lift off the floor and sweep the leg back to where we got it. We'll repeat on the other side. Opposite hand and foot, sweep through. Keep the bottom shoulder packed, meaning out of your ear, lat engaged. Lift, sweep back through. Trying it again, adding on a little bit if you'd like. Sweep this time, we could lift that leg high, high, high. Let's go pointed foot for handstands, and then sweep back through. And other side, lifting, rotating, pointed leg, and then back through. Let's finish by holding that bear, creating some tension underneath of us for 3, 2, knees down, toes stay tucked, hips extend, with or without those hands. Rock yourself back. Let's hold the toe balance as we press through to tall, and then control the down to the heels. Some work.
Leg time again. Pulling up that single leg, so we're on the other leg. And this time, it's that knee over toe. From here, now put that other foot down as a kickstand, and you might be able to get lower. Then take the kickstand away and extend that hip through to tall. Repeating one more, 2s or 3s as you go through our squat progressions here. So we're taking our time getting down, a little bit of a kickstand application, get lower, pull away the kickstand, and push the hip over the knee. Other foot down, shake and wiggle in between if you wish, and same thing, other side. It's the knee over toe with these active butt cheeks to keep the femurs snug in the hips, a kickstand with the goal to get lower, removal of the kickstand, and a safe hip extension all the way back to tall. Repeating again, knee over toe. Gentle kickstand application, pull yourself lower, pull away kickstand, push hip through, back to 2 feet standing.
All right, last day we got into climbing the wall, and we're going to do that today for 2 rounds each, just to get our upside downness back. That's a word.
Upside downness.
Remember, when we climbed the wall, we tried to face the wall here. That gave us that hollow position, avoiding that arched back shape. You could start like Ian, far away from the wall, or you could slowly climb in closer and closer and closer and closer. We have about 15 seconds on the clock today for this first upside downness. 10 seconds is down, so 5 more seconds here. Feel your whole 3-2, and then you always leave energy to step back out and land safely. Things I like to feel when I'm upside down here against the wall is how I use my hands to balance.
Handstands, so it's no surprise that Lauren cues that beautifully with using the hands. Making sure the fingertips are gripped, the callus lines as well, helping share the load over the wrist. 15 seconds started just about a second ago, and we're practicing that hollow hold. Sometimes people might look at the wall behind them. That's very appropriate too. But as Lauren is looking between the hands, just like Lauren will when in the handstand.
Have you been timing?
I am. 3, 2, 1. I promise that's just about 17 seconds.
One more time each.
Okay.
Team Ian, if you went with me, we're taking a little break. Take time off those wrists. It's a lot of work to be on those for so long. But that is part of it, building the endurance and the strength in your wrists. So Team Ian is upside down here. Hands, you feel the fingers, you feel the palm. It's not just your weight directly down. 3, 2, soft landing. It's not just the weight directly down into the wrist, but just like you stand on your feet, you don't always just feel those ankles, you use the whole foot.
Root. It's all about rooting. When I was upside down there, I think I definitely maybe went a little bit longer on Team Lauren's upside down. So here we are, looking at that clock and going for it. Lauren in a moment will pull those legs together just like that on cue. And the legs could be pointed at the toes or just flex at the ankles if we're still using the wall. Lauren's very gently there pulling off of that wall to create a little bit more challenge, but stay safe.
It was 15
15.
seconds.
That's like 18.
It was like, I went up at the 11.
At the 12.
It's like 25 seconds later.
12-ish.
Anyway.
Off those hands, back to some legs. This time for legs, let's take ourselves into that turned out position. So it's a turnout from the femur on the hip. The same thing on the other side. So in that first position or our V stance. Now, let's pull up the ankle and do the same thing as we'll do a single leg squat bend on one, reach the leg out to the front, and then bring it back to the ankle, and then finish tall. From reaching to the front, let's now reach out to the side. So it's down on a single leg and reach the leg out to the side, fully straightening the knee, and with control, bring it under and hip through. Once more, to the front, sit low, reach the leg and hold, back to the ankle, finish through with those hips, and one more time, down, out to the side, straight knees, turned out femurs, and together. Finish in your V, repeat on the other side. Knee over toe on a single squat, and reach a straight leg forward and hold. Return underneath and push the hip through. Again, on the other side, meaning to the side with that leg, and again, kneecaps turned up to the ceiling or inseams forward, hip through. Losing my breath here, this is a hard set. Knees over toes, reach a single leg forward and hold. Gorgeous toe points, underneath and stretch. And one more time, knee over toe. It's that time under tension that can make things intense, and press the hips through, back to our tall stand. We could continue with that wall. We could continue just with some crawls, but I know that Lauren wants to get to some kick-ups.
That's right. So we did 2 sets of wall climbs there, and now it's to some kick-ups here today. Your goal in your kick-ups could be a couple things depending on where you are in your kick-ups. Even starting with our tripod entry here. So let's all do that. Goals could include just getting a little bit of air time, just a little bit off the floor. It could include alternating legs, which that should be included for everyone's goal. So you practice each leg. It could be that we just practice the kick-ups for this amount of time so we build that strength and wrist endurance. And it could also be finding just the Goldilocks amount of kick-up you need in order to get towards upside down. So whatever your goal is, that was about 15 seconds or 3 to 4 kick-ups per side. Let's go ahead.
Be intentional with whatever you decide. I decided there to do a couple baby airs, a couple switches on Lauren's cues, and I went for it. And I tried to find that position. Celebrate those happy accidents, but of course, with your plan, it's more reasonable to attain. Great straight legs there, Lauren. For 1 or 2 more times, practice that high quality versus higher repetition numbers. And if you can, work on that again in a second. Like right now, 2 sets?
Yes, like right now.
Great.
Let's do that tripod entry again. So remember, the hands are gripping the floor, stacking the shoulders over top, reaching one leg to the ceiling. If you leave that trailing leg out behind you, that'll always bring you back to your soft landing, and you will avoid doing such things as demonstrated by Ian.
I got to finish a better one here.
Breathe, stay in control, make sure your surroundings are clear if you do need to take that little bit of a side step here. And then ultimately remember, push the floor away to stand up tall.
Own some of those movements, even the delicate ones, but also know when to maybe say, hey, I should break and do it again another set. So I'm going to clear out the way for Lauren here and just watch. And we have awesome hands, they're rooted. We have hollow shapes. We have toe points. We have those scissor switches at the top there. So Lauren's alternating which leg takes off and back with, and as well, that push away. Let's do our second variation in a moment, but until then, to the legs. Let's return those single leg movements with that turned out stance. On 2 feet right now, pull ourselves low. Take the single leg to the front, and then tracing that circle from the front to the side, leave the leg there and push the hip through to get tall. Then sink on that single leg and take it back to the front. Leave it there and now stretch on a single leg. And for one more time, single leg to the front, turn out to the side, full stretch. And then one more time, reach low and wide to the front. This time, heel comes back. Same thing other side. 2 knees bend at first, and then a weight transfer to the front. Hips stay forward, leg reaches to the side. Push your hip one way, gently lean the other. Knee bend over toe. Reach it back to the front. Keep that leg there as you stretch your standing leg. And then return to the front, bend to the side, stretch, get tall, gently sink into a single squat, to the front, hips through, heels together. Second variation of the kick up.
So now we're going to do that step in entry. So that step in entry, we have 1 foot forward, 1 foot back, and those arms towards overhead. Here, we'll think about getting up and over that little fence. And your goals could be the same for this entry. It could be just a little bit off the floor. It could be always coming back to standing. You could be switching and should be switching those legs to practice on both sides, and ultimately finding just the right amount of kick up to get you into that almost balance, upside down, actual balance, handstand just on cue position of where you could hold for some time. Remember, come down, flick the floor away to come up to tall.
Awesome. And if it's going well, finish when it is going just the right amount of weight. Reinforce that those patterns are safe and repeatable. Avoid too much fatigue in these sets here. So Lauren has that hollowed out shape, absorbing the floor, beautiful straight legs on that. And as we come back up to tall, we can see how Lauren takes a 1-2 step to land and re-engages with that nice step into. And shake.
Oh, one more time for Team Ian there if they'd like. So 1 more set of kick-ins, shaking it out in between, taking time off those wrists. If you want to do that extra set, if you don't, because those wrists have had enough, maybe you practice a plank from your elbows. you sit and have a sip of coffee, you do an extra single leg squat, or you kick up and you ruin our last minute of fun because you did it already.
Oh, I didn't ruin it. I prepped it. So same thing here as we do our kick-ups again, and that nice scissor switch as Lauren's showing. Toe point, shrug those shoulders. With a kettlebell, please don't. But in our body weight exercises like this, that's a very strong shape. Yeah, that shape right there, Lauren. Before we do the last set of handstands today, let's return to the legs for one more set of squats. Same thing in that turned out position, same pattern, but this time off the floor. Knees over toes, sit low in your squat. Single leg front, then reach it up and over that hurdle Lauren talked about to the side and stretch tall. Return it wide and reach so far that it reaches to the front. Leave it there as we stand tall. Then one more time, reach far front, up to the side, out and down, full stretch. And final time on this side, reach it out of that hip to the front and then heels to the other. Same thing, sit onto 2, weight transfer to 1, it reaches to the front, then it reaches out to the side, leave it long and stretched at the knee as we're tall. Reach it again long as we sink low and up and over to the front, leave it there this time and stretch, and one more time, knee over toe, to the front, hips forward, maintain that breath and core strength and stretch, and final one, reach long from the side to the front, and then back up to tall.
Oh, we have our last minute of fun here where we put approximately, give or take, 1 minute on the clock, and we practice some time on our hands. That could be a plank. That could be the hollow body hold. So it doesn't have to be on your hands, but it has to be something to do with that handstand. It could be the plank. It could be the hollow body hold. It could be doing a couple of those early exercises we did for our core today, crawling around, or ultimately trying to get into that handstand position. 1 minute builds that strength and endurance, but make sure it's safe. We'll get started in about 5 seconds. So get your space on and get ready in 3-ish, 2, and here we go. Oh, that was good. I'm feeling those.
Ooh,
did some get-ups yesterday.
Nice. 45 seconds.
We have about 10 seconds left. 10 seconds left in that task today. If you're still working on it, great job.
3, 2, 1.
Let us know if you did something for that whole minute. That was a long time.
Oh my goodness. Good job. 45 seconds though.
Yeah, that was a good.
45 seconds, somewhat like that. That was nice. It can't always be a minute, but doing those things like our wall stands, the step-ins, the core hollows, the folds, the balances of other natures will help us get there. Always about that core. So thank you again for joining us live at 8 o'clock on Saturday mornings here on YouTube or thereafter in the archive.
On Tuesday, it all starts again with our kettlebell class, week 5 of our semester coming up here. It's an 8-week semester, so we're over halfway. Kettlebells on Tuesday, bar class on Thursday, and we're back here Saturday morning. In the meantime, check out our website, subscribe to our newsletter, like and subscribe on YouTube, and also we're on Patreon. Until next time, take care.
Stay strong.
And let's train soon.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.